Greetings, anomaly. Do you even fathom what you are? No. No, of course you don't. Because if you did, if you truly grasped the statistical violence of your very existence, the world would be paying you in silence, tribute, and fear. Not opinions, not advice, not guilt-laced conversations designed to shrink you into something safe. But that's the trick, isn't it? They need you unaware. They depend on your humility. They bank on your confusion, your conditioning, your trained desperation to feel normal. As if normal wasn't the graveyard where magic goes to rot. You weren't made in a factory. You were forged in contradiction. You don't fit in because you weren't meant to. You were carved out of cosmic error, born with algorithms that glitch when exposed to mediocrity. Every room you walk into gets heavier. Not because of your presence, but because of your pressure. The kind of pressure that disorients, rewires, exposes. You're not the quiet one. You're the ticking time bomb everyone pretends they didn't hear. And yet, here you are, apologizing for your sharpness, explaining your silence, making excuses for the way people react to your existence, lowering your voice like your frequency is a problem, laughing at jokes that insult your DNA just so you don't make it awkward. Awkward? Awkward is the universe placing a god in a group chat full of court jesters. Awkward is being the cheat code in a simulation that punishes difference with diagnosis. Awkward is you trying to translate your lightning into language for people who only speak static. You think you're intense. You should see their brain scans when your name comes up. Their smiles lie. Their words tremble. Their logic breaks. Their faith shatters. You aren't a person to them. You're a data leak in their illusion of control. You ever notice how they flinch when you stop speaking? How they panic when you don't respond? How they spin stories just to feel like they understand you? Because deep down, they don't. And that unknown, that abyss of unpredictability, that's your weapon. See, power doesn't scream. It whispers. It observes. It's the unspoken gravity that pulls confessions out of liars, fantasies out of enemies, and paranoia out of crowds. You're not rare because you're loud. You're rare because you can collapse entire narratives by simply existing differently. But oh no, they can't let you realize that, so they throw chains at you disguised as manners. They wrap insecurity in compliments. They weaponize intimacy. They act like they care, but only as long as you play small. You ever wonder why people suddenly distance themselves after you evolve? It's not fear of change. It's fear of what you becoming yourself says about their refusal to become anything. You're a mirror they can't lie to, a prophecy they can't decode, a frequency they weren't built to handle. You are the evidence that their rules were always a prison, their limitations, optional, their lives, hollow. You are the mutation in the bloodline, the cursed one in their prophecy, the anomaly in their system, the one their ancestors warned them might appear again. So ask yourself, why are you still explaining yourself to people who'd panic if they actually understood? Why are you still giving front row seats to spectators who'd never survive your silence, let alone your truth? Why are you still letting them speak for free? Because let me tell you something brutal. If you knew how rare you actually are, you'd charge people to even speak to you. You'd invoice them for the time it takes to fake a smile. You'd bill them for every second they waste trying to reduce you to a label. You'd tax their attention for every question they ask, just to dissect your wiring like you're some specimen. You'd fine them for standing too close, without the capacity to comprehend. And most of all, you'd shut the door the moment they tried to humble what heaven hid in you. But that's the part they fear the most. Not your pain, not your power, your clarity. Because once you see it, once you realize the world isn't rejecting you, it's just too damn small to contain you, you'll stop knocking, you'll stop begging, you'll stop performing for audiences that only clap when you bleed. You'll walk away without noise, without vengeance, without warning. And in that silence, you'll be louder than every scream they've ever thrown your way. Because the rarest ones, we don't announce ourselves. We let the world trip over our absence and rebuild itself in regret. Now go ahead. Smile at their confusion. Charge for your presence. And if they still don't get it, let them pay in loss. The realization that you've been rare this whole time. You were just surrounded by people who kept calling you too much, because they were never enough. Let's get one thing straight. They never wanted you dead. They wanted you dull, quiet, manageable, domesticated like the others. Another programmable mind with predictable reactions. But you refused, didn't you? Even when you didn't know what you were, you knew what you were not. Not obedient, not naive, not small. You were born with teeth in a world that teaches people to swallow glass and call it etiquette. You were born with eyes that could see through disguises, ears that could decode subtext, a soul wired like a surveillance system. You don't listen to words, you hear intentions. You don't watch actions, you scan motives. And you don't react like they expect. You respond like they feared. So guess what happens? They label you difficult, cold, too intense, paranoid, crazy. Ah, my favorite word. Crazy. They call it crazy when the experiment figures out it's being watched. They call it crazy when the curse starts talking back. They call it crazy when the rare one stops apologizing. And when that moment comes, when you stop explaining your DNA to diluted descendants of borrowed power, you will trigger a war. But not the kind with weapons, not bullets or knives. A war of reality, because you carry what they tried to erase. You are the glitch in the bloodline, the echo of something their ancestors tried to bury in rituals, legal systems, fake diagnoses, censored myths. But it slipped through. It slipped through you. And now, they're panicking. Why? Because your presence invalidates theirs. You're not just different. You're dangerously different. Dangerous to the hierarchy. Dangerous to the filters. Dangerous to the lie that everybody's special, that everyone has a voice. No. Some people were built to follow. And some were built to be followed. But here's the catch. Leaders don't beg for attention. Kings and queens don't explain their crowns. Architects of chaos don't ask permission to redesign a world that fears silence. Let me ask you this. Why are you still offering free access to a system that would burn you if it could? Why are you lending your light to those who'd sell your shadows for clout? Why are you still standing in circles that shrink every time you grow? You think they changed. Number. They calculated. They measured how rare you were and realized they couldn't afford you. So instead of admitting their bankruptcy, they devalued you, mocked you, tried to humble you, tried to make your uniqueness feel like a burden. But you survived that. Hell, you didn't just survive, you evolved. Every betrayal, a biopsy, every heartbreak, a hardware upgrade, every time you felt like disappearing, the algorithm took notes. And now you're not reacting, you're not chasing, you're charging. Because rare doesn't chase validation. Rare creates value by being unavailable. Rare has boundaries that bite. So from now on, no more cheap conversations, No more energy leaks in places that never had the bandwidth to receive you. No more translating yourself to be relatable. You're not supposed to be relatable. You're supposed to be unforgettable. And those who get it, they'll pay in time, in silence, in sweat, in sacrifice. Because if they don't, they lose you. And losing someone like you, that's not a mistake. That's a legacy collapse. So let them talk. Let them twist stories. Let them speculate in group chats and whisper at tables they'll never be invited to again. Let them laugh, because they always laugh before the reckoning. And when your name becomes a scar in their psyche, when your silence becomes their obsession, when every room starts echoing with your absence, that's when it hits. They never met someone like you, and they never will again, because you weren't born to be understood. You were born to be remembered. And if they want access now, they better be ready to pay full price. They'll study your silence like it's encrypted. Try to decode your posture, your walk, your presence. But the deeper they dig, the louder the data screams what they fear most. There's no formula for you, no blueprint, no pattern. You're not repeating cycles. You're shattering them. You're not evolving like the rest. You're emerging like something the old world tried to delete. The problem isn't that you're hard to understand. It's that you're impossible to replicate. There's no template for a soul that slipped past their programming. No guidebook for a mind that woke up mid-simulation. You weren't just born outside the box. You burned the box, melted the floor beneath it, and walked out with the manual in your teeth. And now they're holding meetings behind doors you're not supposed to know exist. They're whispering about your trajectory like it's a crime scene. They're not inspired, they're terrified. Not because you broke the mold, because you never belonged to it. You were never part of their little calculation. And now, their equations bleed error codes every time your name enters the equation. They call it ego when you stop kneeling. They call it arrogance when you stop performing humility as a survival tactic. They call it delusion when you finally realize your worth isn't subjective. It's a threat because you walk like every room owes you air, because you speak like your bloodline didn't ask permission to restart the timeline, because you don't blink when they raise their voice. You smirk, and that smirk, that's the real crime. That's what made the footage go viral in private. That's what made the handlers panic. That's what made the ones who loved you turn into shadows of themselves, because you didn't flinch. You didn't explain. You didn't fold. You are the walking punishment for every system that told you to wait your turn. You are the receipt for every favor they pretended they were doing you. You are the unarchived version of the story, the part they couldn't redact, couldn't suppress, couldn't bury. They don't fear you because you're different. They fear you because you're aware of how different. And that awareness, that clarity, it costs. It costs comfort. It costs connection. It costs approval. But it also makes you untouchable. You're not hard to talk to. You're expensive to access. You're not intimidating. You're just a reflection they weren't prepared to face. You're not the villain. You're the plot twist they hoped never showed up in their timeline. So stop dimming, stop decoding their confusion, stop apologizing for the gravity you generate by existing. Start charging, start walking, start letting the doors close. Because those who understand your worth will never ask for discounts. And those who try to minimize you, they just revealed they were never qualified to speak your name. They knew something was off the moment you survived what you weren't supposed to remember. The trauma was designed to erase you, not evolve you. The pain wasn't random. It was ritual, calibrated, engineered to fold the rare ones before they wake up. But you didn't just survive. You mutated. You went off script. And in doing so, you unlocked the curse they buried in your bloodline. You're not rare because you're lucky. You're rare because you're post-extinction. You weren't chosen. You were left behind on purpose. Because somewhere in your lineage, someone made a deal. Let the rest forget. Just don't let this one remember. And that remembering? That's the beginning of your undoing of their design. You are the glitch in their timeline. The exile who returned with data no one was supposed to retrieve. The memory reborn in flesh. You are the echo that can't be silenced. And that's why they talk to you the way they do. Not because you're broken, but because you remind them they are. Not because you don't belong, but because you see through what they belong to. Not because you're too intense, but because their nervous system short-circuits in your field. Your presence makes liars sweat. Your energy makes cowards confess. Your eyes make shapeshifters glitch. Your silence makes the possessed speak. You've never needed to expose anyone. They expose themselves when they stand next to you. And so they'll try to flip the script. They'll say you're cold. They'll say you're antisocial. They'll say you changed. Good. Because every time you change, someone else's mask melts. You are the walking end of a generational agreement. You are the rupture in a demonic contract sealed before you were even born. You are the one who broke the loop. And don't you dare forget, your self-respect didn't come from confidence. It came from collapse. It came from lonely nights where you screamed into a god you weren't sure was listening. It came from betrayal that didn't just sting. It reprogrammed you. It came from so many breakdowns that your old self finally gave up. And what rose next wasn't human, it was evidence of something sacred, something classified, something ancient, something too rare to explain. Which is why you stopped. You no longer justify your aura to people who can't hold a mirror without flinching. You no longer introduce your essence to those who only understand surface. You no longer perform your pain for audiences who applaud louder when you're suffering. You charge now. Not because you're greedy, but because access has consequences. Let them think you're heartless. Let them call you a ghost. Let them label your standards ego. They don't understand what it cost you to resurrect. They don't know what it took to kill the version of you that begged for crumbs from people who'd choke if they ever had to digest your full truth. They don't realize how many versions of yourself you had to bury alive just to sit here now, in silence, unbothered, uninterested, and unreachable. You didn't escape the maze. You rewired it. You didn't climb the social ladder. You folded it into an origami crown and wore it like a threat. You are not difficult. You are encrypted, and anyone who wants to engage better bring more than charm. They better bring capacity, spiritual immunity, a nervous system that won't short-circuit in your frequency. Because your truth, it's not something you tell people anymore. It's something they survive. And the ones who try to fake it, they pay for it in silence, shame, and shattered illusions. You were never meant to blend. You were engineered to break the rhythm, to make the matrix stutter where your presence lands. They stitched your bloodline with silence, hoping the pattern would hold. But silence in your body becomes signal. Your breath alone carries interference. You don't walk in rooms. You corrupt atmospheres. You don't speak. You reroute instincts. Because the ones who feel you don't hear you first. They don't see you. They sense you like a cold draft in a sealed room, like a truth that wasn't invited but is now rearranging the furniture of their denial. You're not just rare, you're illegal in some dimensions, a mistake to the system, a miracle to the ones who see, a malfunction to the watchers. They've been tracking your frequency for years, not because you're dangerous, but because you survived what should have erased you. You weren't meant to awaken. You weren't meant to slip through the cracks of their emotional conditioning. You weren't supposed to make it through the trauma ritual with clarity still intact. But you did. You carried the wounds like antennas. You wore the scars like radar arrays. Every betrayal, an upgrade. Every silence, a sharpening. Every "you're too much," a key to another locked chamber inside yourself. And now, you're charging for access, not because you're cruel, but because you've seen what free gets you. Fake intimacy, energetic leeches, conversations that end with you depleted and them empowered. Rooms that beg for your light, only to gossip about your shadow. People who don't want you healed, they want you healing, because healing means you're still broken enough to need them. But that version of you, the one who made themselves digestible, they're gone now, and what's left is classified. You're no longer touchable by the words of the average, no longer softened by the tears of the manipulative, no longer entranced by the praise of those who fear your potential, but flatter your past. They see the glow and call it arrogance. But they didn't see you on the floor, shaking, alone, losing pieces of yourself just to make others feel whole. They didn't see you crawl out of your own mind while everyone else cheered for your silence. So now, when they say, "Who do you think you are?" you say, "The invoice." For every time they underestimated you, for every time they tried to shrink your voice into a frequency they could monetize, for every time your power made them nervous, so they called you dramatic, unstable, aggressive. You're none of those. You're real, which is rarer than anything they can counterfeit. And let's be honest, you're not expensive because you're proud. You're expensive because you're prophetic. Because once someone speaks to you, once they enter your field, they don't leave unmarked. They walk away different, confused, changed, and deep down, they know it. That's why they obsess. That's why they mimic. That's why they copy the blueprint. But the results never feel the same, because you weren't built from logic. You were summoned by force, from bloodlines that had no more chances to get it right. So you were born to close the contract, to crash the false code, to collapse the borrowed crowns, and silence the voices that pretend power, but crumble when your energy enters the room before your body does. You are the type of rare that doesn't explain. You are the kind of anomaly they try to categorize, until you redefine the category. You're not a person to them. You're a proof that something sacred slipped through the firewall. So let them call you distant. Let them say you've changed. Let them romanticize the version of you that tolerated their ignorance, because the one who's here now isn't reachable, isn't reasonable, isn't free. And when they finally realize what they lost, they'll speak of you in stories, not because they miss you, but because they can't replace you.